When I was 8 months old, my mother died in a car accident going to visit my father, who was in prison at the time. For the first 8 years of my life, my father was incarcerated. During those 8 years, my older brother, my twin brother, and I lived with our grandmother, who did the best she could, but struggled with alcohol addiction. So occasionally, we bounced around, living with relatives or in foster care. We would eventually go live with our father upon his release from prison. We grew up poor, on public assistance, in affordable housing in Roxbury in the South End. I was blessed to go to some incredible Boston public schools, 5 of them, including Boston Latin School. I graduated Latin and attended and graduated from Princeton University and UCLA Law School. My father, however, would not live to see me graduate. When I was a sophomore at Princeton, 19 years old, I talked to him in the morning. He died that evening. In spite of all of this, I am here. Here as an example of God's grace. I am also here because of my twin brother, Andre. This year marks 6 years since Andre passed away, and to this day, my family and I still don't know how he died or under what circumstances. What we do know is that he was in the custody of the Department of Correction, held as a pretrial detainee for 2 years. He had a disease called scleroderma, an autoimmune disease, no cure for it. And while in their custody, as a result of receiving inadequate health care, passes away. He was 29 years old. As you can imagine, his loss had a tremendous effect on me. I question, why am I here? What is my purpose? And how and why could 2 twins born and raised in the city of Boston have such different life outcomes? For me, the work of being an elected and public servant has always been in response to me searching to fulfill my God-given purpose after his passing. That purpose is the very reason I decided to run for office and challenge a 32-year incumbent when I had no name recognition, and to win. I could never have imagined that the council would be the platform not only to share his story, our story, but also to work on policies that would ensure that we don't continue to get divergent life outcomes. I'm also here because of, quote unquote, a criminal. My father was born and raised in Boston in 1933. What most do not know is that he was extremely intelligent. After graduating from Boston Tech in 1951, he was accepted to Princeton University. But he chose not to attend. He chose a different path, hoping as the eldest of 7 that it would allow him to provide for his family. Instead, it led to long periods of incarceration. My father, like so many people of color in the city of Boston, felt a frustration that even if you work hard, and I mean extremely hard, and do all the right things, you are still marginalized. You are still relegated to low-wage jobs, poor housing stock, neighborhoods concentrated in poverty with low-performing schools. That frustration was exacerbated by the fact that in the 1930s, 40s, 50s, and 60s, you were explicitly told that this marginalization and exclusion was because of the color of your skin. Underneath my father's anger and resentment, he, like so many other fathers and mothers in the city of Boston, wanted more for his children. And so although he didn't make it to Princeton, I did. I'm also here because of my Aunt Marie, who immigrated from El Salvador, and my grandparents who came here from Scotland, Germany, and Jamaica. I'm also here because of teachers and mentors who always held me to high expectations and insisted I could reach my dreams. I'm here because of a gentleman named John Hamilton, a Princeton alum and Harvard Law School alum who took me under his wing after I said I wanted to be a lawyer. I'm here because of so many relatives that stepped in after my parents' passing, including my aunt and uncle, Ron and Lois Savage, my former foster parent, Aunt Dot, a white woman, yes, a white woman, who is very much a part of our family. I am also here because of total strangers who contributed to a campaign and believed in me. And I stand here today in my third year on the council as the first Black woman to serve as the president of the Boston City Council. I am here because my colleagues, 7 white men, 5 women of color, elected me to that role. The point is this: none of us got here by ourselves. Because of each of those individuals and so many more, I am here. Each has contributed and touched my life to make me who I am and how I show up in this world. We each have our own histories, unique histories and experiences with, say, segregation, incarceration, immigration, inequities that shows up differently in our lives. We have to create spaces like this to share those unique histories with one another in order to build deeper understanding and trust. All those individuals, some of which I named, who contributed to my life, they allow me not to just define myself as a woman or Black. Through my experiences with them, I am connected to folks who do not look like me, who didn't grow up in the city of Boston, who don't think like I think. Government, I think, must create spaces in order for us to share our stories and unique histories with one another. And why? Government, which has a direct hand in molding these histories, must create these spaces. Government also has to include more stories, stories that aren't currently shared or represented. I share my story often because I know it too belongs in government and leadership. This belief that we are all in this together because none of us got here by ourselves, I think is especially needed in electeds and public servants and policymakers, especially given the incredible role that government plays in our daily lives. From picking up your trash, your recycling, to funding and operating our schools, addressing racism, sexism, inequities, ensuring our veterans have jobs when they come back, our homeless have places to go, our addicted have services. This belief is, I think, essential. I also know that this belief is what allowed me to bridge perceived differences between me and my colleagues on the council. I worked, for example, with Councilor Flaherty, a white, older, much older, longtime counselor from Southie. Regardless of the painful histories of the neighborhoods we grew up in, we created a space. We co-sponsored the Community Preservation Act. And we came together and we said, let's work together. Because we could recognize that those neighborhoods we grew up in both needed more affordable housing, more parks, more open space, more recreation, more historic preservation. The same is true for my colleague, Councilor Siomo, my Italian colleague, and also much older, from Alston Brighton, who serves as my vice president on the council. We need to see the humanity in one another and understand that our identities are formed and built upon shared foundations. Otherwise, I think we're going to exclude certain people from playing a role in building solutions. Or we might just call on, for example, the Black electeds when responding to incidents of violence or race, or solely the women when addressing issues of sexual harassment. Now you, yes, you're all here, all of you, I want you to take a moment and think about all of the individuals who have touched your life, who have gotten you where you are, who have made you who you are, and paved the way for you. There are some obvious choices: your parents, your grandparents, maybe a teacher, a neighbor, or a coach. But who else? I am sure that if you dig a little deeper, you will find that there are folks who do not look like you, who don't share your socioeconomic status, your race, your gender, who didn't come from where you come from, who don't even think like you think, who touched your life, whether directly or indirectly. Who are those individuals? And do you know anything about their unique histories and experiences? Have you ever taken time to listen to them share? The tables that you all sit at, which perspectives are represented? Whether in your home, your boardrooms, your classrooms, your friends groups. Are any of these other individuals represented? And if not, what is lost upon you in your leadership because of that? I am absolutely confident that we can solve the issues that plague the city of Boston and not get more Andres or disparate life outcomes. I am sure that we can serve more residents and build a deeper trust between our residents and their government. And I think the only way we do that is working together and allowing all of our stories and experiences to inform the work. Thank you.